Sports fans, get ready for Sportz-USA. Get sports from a personal point of view from seasoned professionals who've reported and lived the stories. Now let's go to the crew high atop the Sportz-USA press box. Hello, everybody. I'm John Askins. Welcome to this week's edition of Sportz-USA.com. And we're going to be all over the map today. We're fixing to be in a discussion about some football with Kevin Long, John Kearns, and Tom Russo. A little bit later in the program, we'll be joined by Bo Carter talking baseball, college baseball, and college athletics as a whole. And then we'll end the show with a live report with Mark Johnson, who gives us a little tour of Pebble Beach and the AT&T Pro Am that's going on this week out in Northern California. So, guys, let's pick it up, and let's start with the Super Bowl. Now, I made a couple of notes here, and let me just sort of go over them. It was a defensive battle, obviously, to the top defenses in the league, but Seattle was ranked number one, and they showed while they were the best defense. I think overall Seattle had the better offensive weapons, with Jackson Smith-Jigba. I've always mispronounced that name, and Cooper Kupp and their MVP, Kenneth Walker, the running back, along with Sam Darnold, they were just better on offense than New England was. And so what was your takeaway from the game, Kevin?
I can tell you the best human interest story I heard about the game. Not one, but two guys from eastern New Mexico, Portales, the Greyhounds. Yes. Two guys were on the Seattle staff, coaching on the Seattle staff. And that, to me, was a semi-unbelievable story that a school the size of eastern New Mexico could have two guys on the same staff. Now, the takeaway was, defensively, Seattle just too strong, too overwhelmed them.
Derek, May, the quarterback for the Patriots, was exposed, I think, as a rookie-type quarterback.
Well, and what I saw was that they didn't change. They kept trying to have him drop back, and instead of doing a lot of his short passes, which he kind of cut his teeth on all year, they were looking downfield, and the offensive line didn't protect him. I mean, Coach K, did you see what I saw as far as the defensive pressure was in his face all night long, especially on that left side?
It was unbelievable. Some of the times you just saw a bull rush and come just throw the offensive lineman into him to make a sack. I mean,
yeah, that left tackle did not have a good game, did he?
No, he did not have a good game at all. And it was a total domination up front. I actually think really on both sides of the ball, because you don't see Kenneth Walker running for 135 yards without that offensive line. I mean, they were cutting people off. They were chipping. I mean, they were doing everything they could. And it just was a total mismatch up front. Yeah, Mays had a terrible game, but he had somebody in his face. I mean,
every play, right?
He got the quick feet really early in the game, and his timing was never the same. He just couldn't get set. He couldn't make a throw. He had receivers open all night long. He just couldn't get his feet set solid enough to make the throws. And that's because, the pressure, strip sacks, all the different things you see, that defensive front four of Seattle was just unbelievable in that game.
Kevin, I thought Mike Tirico and Chris Collinsworth had a very solid game.
Yeah, they're pretty good at that stuff. So, I won't argue with you there.
It's kind of hard to do with the way the game progressed, because it was a defensive struggle is kind of hard to call, because there's not a whole lot of highlights and to get excited about other than the sacks and stuff.
Pretty boring
Kenneth Walker
game.
Getting the MVP was certainly well deserved, but I thought you could have made an argument for Seattle's kicker. Yeah,
Well,
he
that
had
brings
five field goals, the extra points. No real problems. I think he even kicked the ball off well on the kickoffs. So
that
uh,
brings up a point, Tom, that I was gonna that I wrote down. What that game proved to me again is that 2025 was the year of the kicker in the NFL and in college. How many games did you guys watch this year where a kicker would just routinely kick a 55-yard field goal? I mean, some of them approach 60, and that's just a huge change in the game.
and that's in college. At the pro level, you had that kicker that was kicking close to 70 yards.
I remember I was watching a Vanderbilt game, and they trotted a freshman. I think he was a freshman out, and he kicked a 57-yard field goal in his first attempt.
How about the
why
Cowboys
are these
kicker?
guys improving? I'm sorry, Kevin.
How about the Cowboys kicker?
I don't watch the Cowboys, so you have to tell me about that.
Well, this kid, I should say kid, he's a man, but he's not that old.
Oh yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yes.
But anyhow, he's kicking them from 55, 60 yards out. He didn't even play. He's from Plano, and he didn't even play high school football.
He was a soccer player, wasn't he? Yes.
And here's the heck of it. Getting back to what Coach was saying, he didn't even play soccer for Plano High School. He played for his AAU team, which went all over the country. And, that's how he got to be, a great soccer player. But he could kick, and I guess he went to Notre Dame, played soccer there, and then tried out for the Cowboys for the heck of it and made the team and became one of the more predominant kickers in the NFL.
Yeah, I think you're seeing a big influx right now of soccer kickers because, I mean, such powerful legs. And you look at the athletes, you look at the guys, they don't look like the old school kickers that we grew up with.
No.
That just
and you also, to that same point, you also see it on the punters. You're seeing these Australian rules football guys come in and play punters, and they're built like brick walls, running to the side and then kicking it. It's kind of crazy. My years as an official, those were the toughest punts to call, was when somebody would roll out like that, because now they're a runner. They don't have the punt protection. And a lot of people don't know that. Even a lot of announcers in football don't realize that if they do that rugby style kick, they lose that protection of roughing the kicker. So if they're running out there, because he could take the ball and just run. And so they can tackle him or run into him, and it's not a penalty. So it's kind of an interesting aspect, but I think that's why they're getting these Australian rules football guys that are
it's football is a game of imitation, isn't it, Coach? Somebody does something, and then the next school picks up on it, and that's why the NFL is basically a league of 4-yard outs, if you will, passes.
Well, it's been an interesting year in the NFL because I've been fascinated by the big change in the philosophy of fourth down and less than 3. It almost doesn't seem like there's any hesitation at all on coaches across the board. I think there are 2 or 3 that still don't take the gamble, take the risk.
Mike Leach.
Going forward on fourth down has become the norm.
Mike Leach brought that to his air raid offense, and
there was that coach in Georgia, the high school coach, that kicked on sides every time, went for it on fourth down every time, and said the odds were in his favor, and he wound up winning a couple of state championships to prove his point. But Kevin, I wanted to ask you from your idea. What do you think of the new kickoff rule in the NFL? Do you like it, not like it?
I hate it.
Yeah, I do too. I was wondering why you hate it.
It just doesn't seem like football.
It's to protect the players, and that seems to be...
I won't argue with that. That's good. But it just doesn't seem like football to me.
It doesn't. And as an official for over 20 years, I certainly understand you want to protect the players, but I like seeing the actual game played the way it was supposed to be played. We've made all these changes to protect the quarterback. We've made all these changes to protect the defenseless player. And now you have this role with the kickoff. And Coach K, can you imagine trying to teach that to kids? Because you know it's going to trickle down. First, it's going to go to college.
It's inevitable. It's like John said earlier. It's the imitation sports is a game of imitation, and I can see it happening because again, the safety situation, the implications. You're not going to get that 40-yard running start to go down and nail somebody. And
Right.
the thing that's always kind of confusing is, well, if they kick it to here, they get it there, and if they kick it to here, they can get it to here. I mean, the placement after the kick is kind of confusing to me. I mean, I'm kind of old school. If you kick in the end zone, you got two choices: you can down it for a touchback or run it out. And it seems like there's so many options now that I can fair catch it out at the 5-yard line.
You can catch it and get it out at the 25. I mean, it's really crazy.
It's kind of taken away a lot of the stuff. Although the one thing I'll have to give it has really accelerated returns.
Right.
Returns this year are about 10 to 12 yards more on average than they were before this kicking change came.
Well, it's pretty obvious why they don't get hit until about the 20-yard line, right?
They get to have that. They get to have the running start. So
yes, they've got the steam, the momentum.
But
one other thing I was going to ask
I don't think we saw as many returns for touchdowns this year, though, did we? Anybody?
No, I don't know the stats on it, but I know we had some pretty phenomenal, like 100-yard plus, probably 5 or 6 of them. So, it's kind of that part of it. I kind of like the fact that it's, on any given play, they're going to try to run it back now. And it doesn't seem to, because again, the defensive players aren't down there yet.
right.
You got that little envelope that you can slide into and get some ground, and then let things open up. That's made it a little more exciting. I kind of like that aspect of it. It's still taking me on heart every time I see a lineup. I look at it like, what's wrong with this picture?
Yeah.
So,
Coach, let me ask you just real briefly. The coach at Seattle has been viewed now as the defensive guru. You ran some pretty sophisticated defenses on your teams. What is it that he is doing that is better than anybody else?
well, it's the way I think what happened in especially the Super Bowl, and again, May being a young quarterback, they really confused him because of his disguising his coverages. I mean, he gave numerous looks, but they were able to check off from what looked like man coverage into a zone drop, either a cover 3, cover 4, and it really, again, I've always been a firm believer defense wins championships. I think you saw it almost at all levels this year. So his scheme is he only rushes 4. I mean, they didn't do a whole lot of blitzing in that, but he did a great job. I mean, they've done a great job, bringing in people who can fit his scheme, which is stay in your lanes, dominate, control the edge. I mean, they don't have great edge rusher, but they stay in their lanes and force the quarterback to make a decision quickly.
And he has to make a play. He has to make
the play.
Yeah.
So,
Kevin, in all your years of covering football, what do you think you would rate? How would you rate this Seattle defense compared to other great defenses throughout the years? I think about the '85 Bears and people like that. Where does this rate in your book?
Well, does Buddy Ryan get to coach him? But I think clearly, I don't know that they're better than the Doomsday defense or better than the Bears Super Bowl shuffle defense, but they're as good. I mean, they really were very, very impressive from everyone, everywhere. They stay in their lanes, all right. They sure do.
Yeah. How about the Purple People Eaters, although they never did win the big one, I guess?
With Alan Page?
Yeah.
They were pretty good too, weren't they?
They
Yeah.
were.
They were pretty
They
good
were.
too.
Well, one of the subjects I wanted to touch on was moving to we have to touch on this, the halftime. I don't even want to talk about Bad Bunny and that whole ridiculous hoorah about him, but the thing that stood out to me about the halftime was it was incredibly the production values were great, and I it really escapes me the last time I saw such incredible camera work. If you think back to that halftime, they didn't miss a shot. And that's tough, Kevin.
Well, they're pretty good. They're pretty good. Now, having said that, I didn't even watch halftime. Didn't even watch
Nor
it.
did I.
And it was really anything to do with Bad Bunny. It was just, I had a few errands and things I had to do right around the house.
Well, that's what halftime was supposed to be. And what happened to that? That was when you go to the bathroom, right?
Well,
Yeah, go fix
absolutely,
yourself a sandwich.
But I didn't even get a chance to watch Bad Bunny. So, I don't know if he was, I don't know a thing about what he did.
The stupidest thing that I heard about this all was that how he was so divisive that the halftime show of the Super Bowl was supposed to unite us. That's the most ridiculous thing, absurdity that it's just, I shake my head about the political, territory in the U.S. Everything has to be about politics, and that's complete bullshit. And anyway, let's sort of move on. I know that next year the Super Bowl will be moving down the coast to Los Angeles. It's going to be at the SoFi Stadium, another real jewel in the NFL crown. And I think that the Super Bowl, to me, the whole Bad Bunny thing was great marketing, a great marketing ploy for the league. You see them going to Europe playing games. They play in Mexico City. So why would this not be a triumph for the NFL marketing staff? Because you bring in a complete new audience for your product.
John, I was thinking about that too. I didn't see, I'm not Kevin, I didn't see it. I was driving back we watched the first half at my daughter's house, and then we spend 20 minutes driving home and then watch the second half. But in Spanish, you think about the number of people that they're reaching out to now. Like you said, Spain, Mexico, South America, they're playing games there now. Mm-hmm. This was a tremendous marketing tool on their part. They were reaching out to the new market of a worldwide Spanish-speaking audience that, yes, we hear you, we understand, and here's something for you. And so I thought it was a super move on their part. I thought about that a lot, because everybody was complaining, it's all in Spanish. I don't understand a word he's saying.
Well, they should have gone to Spanish class. You should have taken Spanish in high school. It made me think about my old Spanish teacher, Miss Creasy, in high school. I wish I'd have paid attention a little bit more. Well, let's wrap up that. Let's touch one more thing. Anybody see any commercials that you liked? My favorite one was, my favorite two was the Matthew McConaughey, Bradley Cooper spot about football is food. And then my second, of course, this is our age group. My second favorite was the commercial about take a look at your pee now. I don't know if you guys saw that, but using that song, take a look at me now, they were, I don't know what they were promoting, hydration, I guess. Take a look at my pee now to make sure it's not too discolored, so.
That one was kind of strange, John. Yeah. I'm always going to be one of the Budweiser fans. I thought that was kind of nice.
I liked the Budweiser one too. Kevin, it looked like you had a favorite. What were you going to say?
I really didn't have any this year, but my all-time favorite one will always be, don't fake the funk on the Monster Dunk. Can anybody remember that one? How about 25 years ago?
Oh, wow.
Well,
That's a long time ago. Yeah.
my
well,
favorite
or
one.
about 20 years ago was with Shaquille O'Neal and Lou Alcindor. And what happened was, I guess it was Shaquille O'Neal knocks on a door of what's supposed to be a home of the greats. And in there is Alcindor, and I'm trying to think who else was in there. But anyhow, the whole deal was um, don't fake the funk on the monster dunk. And they all went up and stuffed it with authority and whatnot. And I always got a huge kick out of that one.
Was Wilt Chamberlain in that commercial? Why do I think he might have been? I don't know.
Well, he could have very well been. It's on YouTube if you want to see it. I mean, just you get
Well,
to YouTube.
probably the most popular ever was the Robert Palmer one with the Babes. What was his hit song?
Simply Irresistible.
Simply Irresistible. Was that a Pepsi commercial?
I think it might have been. It was some soft drink, I think.
Google that one. That's enjoyable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, let me touch on a couple of things. I don't know if you guys saw that Clint Kubiak, son of Gary Kubiak of Houston and Texas A&M fame, he's taken over as the new head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. And, that makes me feel real old because I remember Clint, throwing as a little bitty kid at Reliance Stadium, with the Texans throwing the football around. And, St. Pius was where his dad went to high school. So,
yeah.
Anyway,
I was going to say you probably saw him play at St. Pius, didn't you?
Yes, unfortunately.
I actually saw one of his games at A&M, and I'm going to say this would have been about 82, but this was Jackie Sherrill's first game. They played Boston College, and this was with all the fanfare of Jackie Sherrill coming down from Pitt. Everybody thought A&M was going to be a powerhouse immediately. Well, they played Boston College, and they got beat something like 35-10. It might have even been 35-3. But anyhow, I always remember, I mean, it was over. It was one of these deals where it was like 24-0 at the half. And then they just kind of rode out the second half. But anyhow, I always remember after the game, Gary Kubiak was one of the people they brought to the press room, and he wasn't real happy.
No. He was he had a good run as the Texans head coach, but when I think of Kubiak's run with the Texans, it's just that's one of the franchises that just is not well run. I did think that it was a tremendous achievement for the New England Patriots' new head coach, Mike Vrabel, and it completely makes Amy Adams and the operation over at Tennessee look exactly what they are, just incapable of fielding and running an organization.
Well,
with that said, guys, let's switch to golf. We've got the AT&T Pro Am tournament coming up this week, and with a live report from Pebble Beach, we've got our correspondent out on the West Coast. And talking about the AT&T Pro Am tournament, let's go out to the West Coast live with Mark Johnson, who is coming to us live from Pebble Beach. And you're seeing a little bit of weather out there today, Mark.
Yeah, this is typical Monterey County this time of the year. The players are used to it. The volunteers are used to it. Everybody seems to be used to it out here. We wouldn't know what this weather, what this tournament was like if we didn't have a little fear of rain coming down the pipe. So it's a little bit today. It should calm down after this. Hopefully, maybe get another little spurt or two the next couple of days. But if forecast doesn't change, we should have some good golf.
What's the mood out there? We talked a little bit last week about the LIV tournament and how it may change. Now, again, the Pebble Beach Pro Am will be a 72-hole, event. And what's the discussion about dialing it back a day?
We haven't heard anything down here. I think in some place they might consider a compromise, but I don't know. I'd give that better. I wouldn't give it any better than a 50-50 chance of happening just because of the stance that the PGA Tour has had. A lot of this is about sponsorship money and TV coverage
Sure.
and all that stuff. And there's a lot of people with vested interest of having a 72-hole tournament. So I don't know how likely that is in this environment compared to the way LIV is structured.
You're in the middle of, you're the epicenter of the sports universe this week with the Super Bowl just up the road. What has there been any discussion about that? What was the local feedback and opinion of the game the other day?
I think it was pretty expected. The 49ers are in the same division as the Seahawks, and nobody likes to root for the Seahawks, but everybody was pretty resigned to the fact that they were probably going to take it. And, it pretty much looked like that as a get-go. All 49ers fans just used that day as an excuse to have a party. And as far as they're concerned, the Seahawks still suck, but they figured they'd probably take the game, which they did.
Well, let's get back to golf. Rory McIlroy took the tournament last year. It's a $20 million purse, if I'm correct. What are the experts sort of looking at as the Pro Am gets underway tomorrow?
Well, I think Rory is a natural favorite, especially since he broke through and took it last year. He likes this course. I mean, he always loves playing the U.S. Open when it's here, which it will be again next year. And I don't know. My money's on Rory to take it again. I wouldn't be surprised. We've had a lot of multiple winners out here. Phil Mickelson's probably the most notable one, who's won several. And pros who like it really like it, and pros who hate it really hate it. One in particular, Tiger. He's never been a fan of Pebble Beach, even though he tore it up one time. But
Right.
I think the safe money's on Rory, and I haven't heard anybody talking about anybody else. It's a crowd-oriented guy. I mean, it's a celebrity-oriented gallery, even though the main celebrities aren't here anymore. All the gallery people out here really like Rory, and they're pulling for him.
I was gonna ask Mark, who do you think the top amateur is?
That's a good question. And quite frankly, I have not looked, Tom, at the list for this week in terms of who the hotshots are, in terms of collegiate players, anybody like that. I don't pay attention to it as much anymore since the amateur ranks got cut down a little bit. But this is not a good course to have an inexperienced game on when the weather is funky. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to be an amateur coming out here and trying to tear it up in this weather.
Is Oberg playing in the tournament?
He has before. I don't know if he has this time. I've been so busy getting ready to get our teams ready for tomorrow that I haven't even looked at the final list. Yeah, I was really excited when Brooks Koepka defected out of LIV, but I didn't think he was going to have a chance because of all the procedures you'd have to go through to be able to get here in time. So I'm assuming he's not here. If he's here, I'm surprised. So
Mark is probably one of the most California-type named officials out there, a gallery management ambassador.
Yeah. I guess this tournament is now a PGA signature event. I figured they had to soup up our name a little bit from Marshall to gallery management ambassador. It sounds more special, but it's pretty much the same thing.
What's your most enjoyable part of being out there?
Well, me as a lifelong golfer, Pebble Beach is the holy grail, except maybe paralleling with St. Andrews in Scotland. And to me, it's just special for me walking out on the course and on the grounds every day, because this is hallowed ground for golfers. It's on everybody's bucket list to play. It's the television cameras and photographs don't do it justice. There's nothing like being out here and coming out, walking out early in the morning when the bay's quiet, birds are out, and it's it's just beautiful. It's stunning. It's stunning even before you even start talking about the golf course. But the golf course is still there. Golf courses have gotten longer and harder, but this one still has its own character, and it's just a special place.
Yeah, I was
So
going to ask about the structure of it. When was the last time it kind of had a major upgrade as far as the holes and stuff?
Interesting you say that, Tom, because there hasn't been much changes, but they seem to be making a change this year on hole number 6, the par 5, that is clearly a test for next year's U.S. Open. You may know that hole as one that the pros can regularly hit into. You can get in trouble just because it's right on the cliff next to the ocean, but it's not very long. And so for this tournament, they're moving the tee box back a good, I would say 30 to 40 yards across the cart path next to hole number 14, and it's going to make the whole play differently. And I think it's something they're trying out to see what the players think out of it, see how it works with the galleries, um, and then leaving it in that way for the U.S. Open next year.
The pros should still be able to hit it in 2, I would assume.
Yeah, I don't think they may be hitting longer clubs into the green. I think the main thing is it'll probably make the wind come into play a little bit more because it's angled a little differently. The traps along the left side of number 6 may come into play a little bit more. I'm just getting ready to go out and we'll look at it. I'll walk out and look at it. I hadn't even looked at it in person yet. For the volunteers, it's not a real positive thing because it's going to create more of a traffic jam of people up at the top of the hill because of its adjacency to 14. And so that's what we were talking about today in terms of how we're going to handle that. As far as the players go, I think they'll adapt to it pretty quick, but there's no doubt that they'll play the hole a little differently. That's about the only one that's significant that I can think of right now in terms of any changes. Number 3, there was a big storm here a few years ago that knocked down one of the seminal trees at the dogleg left corner on number 3. And when that happened, then players just started getting more aggressive in terms of trying to cut that corner and trying to get closer to that green. We haven't had any more damage like that, but that's probably the most significant change I can think until this year with the number 6 tee box.
So I got to ask you, how does it compare to playing intercollegiately at Rice and me caddying for you at the River Oaks Country Club?
Hey, that was a good memory. I haven't thought about that one in a long time. I still think the River Oaks Country Club is one of the best golf courses I've ever played. It's beautiful. It's a great test of golf, and I miss those days. It's interesting. I've gotten a chance to play a lot of great golf courses in the world, but a lot of those golf courses in Houston are still some of my favorites. Probably River Oaks, Houston Country Club, the old Atascocita, which has changed names I think 3 times by now. There's a lot of great golf courses in Texas, period, and Houston, but California golf's a little different. It's not so much about distance out here; it's about dealing with the weather elements and the wind, and
yes,
it's quite different than a lot of those golf courses that we played in college. You may remember the Border Olympics that was always held in Laredo every year. The mystery was always when we went down there and played in that tournament when I was at Rice was how much grass was going to be on the ground or if there was just going to be dirt.
And sort of like playing out in West Texas, yeah.
Yeah, and it's
I got to know, are there any pictures of John as a caddy? I would love to see those.
No, none of those exist anymore.
I think he burned all of those.
Yeah. Mark, appreciate you joining us today. This is great, and we'll expect a complete recap of all the action on next week's podcast. But enjoy your week. I know this is a highlight every year for you, and hoot 'em owls, right?
Yeah, hoot 'em owls, and I'll give my Al's a presence out here, and we're ready to tee it up. We'll see you guys next week.
Okay. Thank you, Mark.
Thanks a lot, Mark.
You bet. Thank you.
And speaking of college baseball, we've got the expert in the nation, Bo Carter, with us. Bo is the president, or what do you're the executive director of the College Baseball Writers Association, and you're in the Sports Information Directors Hall of Fame. It's your time of year, 2 days away from college baseball, and let's talk about, who are the top teams again this year.
Yeah, it's LSU, the defending national champion, number 1 in the poll. And ironically, Georgia Tech was picked number 4 by the baseball writers. A little bit of a surprise there. After they I think, advanced like 1 round deep into the tournament last year. But
yeah, I saw that.
Boy, these days, John, the best,
great memories
best
of Danny Hall out
Danny
there.
Hall, and
what a great
your
guy
alma mater
he was.
has one of the best teams. Texas Tech has one of the best teams money can buy. After
not
20
in,
and 33
not in baseball,
season.
I don't think
not in baseball and softball we do, but in baseball we're
that's
struggling
right.
again.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, let's continue. Who are some of the other top teams?
Well, of course, UCLA has received several votes for number 1 also.
That's right.
They're
UCLA
back again.
and LSU were the teams that played in the finals last year at the College World Series.
Coastal Carolina.
Tennessee.
Yeah, Tennessee's up there, number 4, number 5. Coastal Carolina, that was the runner-up last year to LSU's back. Ironically, Murray State was the Cinderella team last year, and I think they lost their entire ball club. They received votes, but were not in the preseason writers' top 30.
Really?
But Mississippi State's getting I've seen them anywhere from 6 to 8. They hired
your old
Brian
alma
O'Connor,
mater,
former Virginia coach, and I think they had 20 transfers, plus they had.
He did a great job at Virginia.
He really did. He did. And Omaha native, so he likes to go back there every June when he has a chance. So,
well, let's talk about the story that was the underlying thing last year, and this is going to hurt Tom a little bit. Texas A&M, boy, they thought they had it going, and they were ranked number 1. And then Jim Schlossnagle, their head coach, decided that he would take leave of College Station and move over to Austin. You can decide whether that's a good move or not. But it sort of really took the air out of the Aggie balloon. And this year, I noticed that Texas is coming in at number 3, and A&M was 25. So I know that doesn't do much for the Aggie psyche, does it?
No, it's hard to tell. Again, a brand new coach at A&M. They promoted the assistant, and I don't. They didn't lose. They had a really pretty good nucleus coming back last year. I think they had some injuries to the pitching staff and just kind of buzzard luck. But and just like Coastal Carolina, sometimes these teams just get hot at the right times, and you just got to time it out perfectly on that. So that anybody can, especially in the SEC and the Big 12. Well, in the ACC, 21 of the 30 preseason teams in the writers' poll were SEC and ACC teams. So those are the 2 power leagues.
They are. You and I went up every year for a decade or so, and you're still going. How I just don't feel that that atmosphere has ever been recaptured since they moved to the new stadium from Rosenblatt. Rosenblatt was a part of the story all by itself, wasn't it?
It really was. It's sad. They've got a layout for little league. They kept the base pass. They kept the scoreboard up there, John.
Yeah, at where the location was by
Rosenblatt,
the zoo, right?
They took it. Of course, the Omaha Zoo's been coveting that parking lot, that parking area for years. So everything else is parking spaces for the zoo. But it's and Zesto's closed, our favorite ice cream place.
Zesto's is history.
So
what do they bring up to the press box now?
They just have regular your institutional food. Although it's kind of an interesting deal. I hope we're not going over a sponsorship.
No.
Exclusivity here. They introduced Coke Zero during the World Series. Coca-Cola products, one of the, and they tried to get the writers, and I think it met with kind of a sort of a.
It was a taste test failure.
Nondescript reception there, but I'm a big fan.
Well, I know my dad and I went when A&M went all the way to the finals. We were up there, and we went one other time when Tech went in 2014, I believe it was, and we
Right.
also went
Yeah.
when A&M beat UT that
Mm.
one year. And we went up there, and now all of those were at the Ameritrade
Yes.
ballpark,
Yes.
and we loved it. I mean, it to me is the best sporting event that I've ever been to, and I've been to a lot of them.
It's really captures that Americana feel, but
It
it was
does,
even
and
more so, Tom, when it was at Rosenblatt.
Yeah.
I think what I love about it, Bo, is you see fans from every school, even schools that aren't there. You
Right.
see fans, and they're knowledgeable baseball fans. They're
Oh, yeah.
they're not your typical, know-it-all fans
Mhm.
necessarily. You've got knowledgeable baseball fans, which I appreciate as a baseball fan. And that's always spoken to me volumes when we go up there. Cindy and I have some very fond memories.
It really did.
Well,
And
when we get closer to the finals, we'll have to swap some stories, Bo, because
that's right.
we got plenty of them, especially at Rosenblatt. Now, the great thing that I really enjoyed about Rosenblatt is, it was an older stadium, and it had an old, wooden press box. We call it the death box
The death
because to get there, you had to like climb up this staircase, and almost go across the roof to get down into this press box. And then, as Kirk Bowles would describe, it was either 100 degrees or minus 30. There was no in between, and that's why they call it the death box. Because if you came out of there after spending 2 weeks up there and you didn't have pneumonia, it was pretty good.
And if you remember too, John, you had to walk across like a tarp roof, like a roof of your home, and they had lines painted because they're afraid they reinforced the walkway so people wouldn't fall through the grandstand.
I really like the new. Okay, so it was the older stadium, and then they tore down the death box, and
Yes,
they built this very nice press box that hovered above the the older stands, and I really liked that. And I could tell you an off color story, Tom. We're not kiddie fair here necessarily, but we were there the year that. What's the actor's name that was always supporting
Kevin Costner?
Kevin Costner. I'm sorry.
That's right.
Kevin Costner had a new movie out, the one about him being for the love of the game, and so he was up there promoting his movie, and he actually before it came out, he showed it to the Texas team pregame one time, and so. As you go through the games, there are certain times that you've got time to take a restroom break. So I went into the press box restroom and, I sat down and I noticed somebody came in next to me and sat down. And I'm telling you, the funk in there was funky. And so I think I was actually reading the newspaper or something. So I got out of there and I went over to the basin, I was washing my hands, and out comes the guy who was next to me. It was Kevin Costner.
Yeah.
And I looked at him and I said, you know what? Yours does smell. You may be a Hollywood actor, but yours does smell.
And
So,
you remember,
anyway, sorry about that.
Augie Garrido was in the movie, if you remember. He played the Yankees
That's right,
manager or
Augie.
something.
Experts in the field. We've got a former baseball coach, John Kearns, and we've got a former baseball aficionado, not really, but Kevin Long joins us. And guys, we were sort of going over the college baseball top 20. John, you brought up a good issue about colleges. Are we going to last in this same makeup? How long is this going to last?
Everything that I've been reading, and again, you look at the handwritings already on the wall, it's kind of become evident that, right now, two conferences are pretty well dominating the word out there. And so it's either get on board or become part of the menu. I mean, the fact is, it's just the power conferences right now have all the sway because they have the contracts with television. They got the money. They got the swag. They got all the stuff going for them right now. And if you look at it, it's spilling over into all the other sports, the secondary sports, like we talk about golf, baseball, wrestling, whatever you want to talk about, volleyball. It's still, you got the big four. The big four conferences are pulling it all, and they're drawing the TV time. And because of that, money talks. So it's going to be, I don't see the NCAA lasting much more than another year, even if that much. I think it's going to come, and it's going to be a real sudden, quick death.
Bo, you're probably closer to that than anybody in this group. Do you think it's going to be whittled down to, say, the top 60? It was a few years ago that really the NCAA lost all its power. The conference commissioners took over.
Yep. Yeah, exactly right. And Coach K hit it right. In a perfect world, they'd like to get 64, where you could have 16 team or 232 super conference teams with even numbers for another, for expanded 16, 24 team playoff. And right now, the sort of whole card on this thing right now, the NCAA's CBS contract for $1 billion a year for basketball, I think, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, Tom or John, I think runs through like 2030 or 2032. So that's kind of their only really backup for the whole thing. And I guess, the football conferences could break. I mean, the football powerhouses could break off and not see a real great loss in revenue. But, your mid-majors and the other teams that rely, each conference gets a certain plug out of the college football playoff and the NCAA basketball.
Well, absolutely.
Contract,
and football drives, the economics of the NCAA, there's no doubt. But when you talk about baseball and softball and some of these other less revenue producing sports, it's different because the mid majors have an opportunity to win. Coastal Carolina has proven
they don't
that.
like that. The bigger schools don't like that.
I know they don't like it, but it happens.
Yeah.
But it happens.
Well, Kevin, you cover college basketball. How do you think this will affect your area?
It's tough for me to say, but, covering college basketball, here's an interesting trend I'd like to throw out and get some opinions on. I went down to Texas this week to see Ole Miss play Texas. Now, Mark Adams, an assistant coach of Ole Miss, longtime friend of mine, known him since '81 when he was at Clarendon. I stayed with Eddie Cunningham, who's a former All-American football player at University of Texas, and whose son, Brock, played basketball there. Now, here's what they got going. Their stadium seats 10,000 people, and that's it. And they, of course, fill it to the brim. And what you're seeing in basketball is a lot of schools like Baylor, like Auburn, they've built arenas that are much smaller so they can pack them in and really have a great, great atmosphere. Because let's face it, there are only a few Kentuckys and Kansas and Arizonas and Texas Tech out there that are going to fill a 16,000, 17,000 arena to the brim every time. North Carolina, but most of them are not. And so why have a 17,000 arena if you're only going to put 9,000 people in it? And so a lot of them are building those smaller arenas for the effect.
Right. Well, man, that's a stunning announcement, Bo, that Texas is packing their basketball arena.
I know what's going on. Hey,
with 10,000 people.
Yeah.
Well, that's lemons.
Yeah, that's the trend. Even in Major League sports, Major League Baseball, that's the trend. When you build a new stadium, you create more demand, and I guess you create more revenue that way because they build smaller stadiums.
Well, I think what it does, and I think Kevin alluded to it, it makes the atmosphere that much more alive. It makes the atmosphere electric if you have 10,000 people in a 10,000 seat stadium, whereas if you have 10,000 people in a 17,000 seat stadium, it's empty, it's echoes, and it doesn't have the same impact. So you get the You get to
Kind of
do it
ask
in the North
Arizona
Carolina
what it's like to play in a packed house stadium.
Yes.
Fog Allen last week. I
That was
mean,
incredible.
everybody
Unreal.
Yes.
credits the crowd with them being able to pull off that upset win of Arizona. I mean, Bill Self, good old alumni of my high school,
Edmund.
is, Edmond High
there you go.
School, yes, home of Bill Self,
I almost
and quite a
coached
few
Bill
others.
Self in a
You
story
almost
I'll tell you about in a second.
okay.
When I
You know,
was very shortly on the workforce, I covered Paul Hansen at Oklahoma City University. And Paul Hansen and I became incredible friends, really good friends. Keep in mind, we're talking about a totally different era here. We're talking about late 70s, early 80s. Paul Hansen, I'd just taken a job as a sportscaster in Amarillo in the early 80s. Paul Hansen calls me and he wants to know if I'd be interested in joining his staff. And I was kind of incredulous. I was like, why? Why would you call me? I mean, you've got a ton of people who would give their right arm to coach in the Big Eight, which it was at the time. Why would you call me? And it was this simple. Paul didn't want a coach. He wanted a recruiter. And the recruiting
Right.
back then was totally different. This was
Yep.
before AAU, before all that kind of stuff. And he said he wanted somebody who could put an orange jacket and black tie on and go in and meet the parents, meet the coaches, exactly how he wanted it done. And he said, that's what I want you for. Well, at any rate, Bill Self was on that team that year. It was the early 80s. And so if I'd taken the job, I would have been Bill Self's coach.
And the rest would be history.
Yes.
You know, I always wonder what would have ever happened if I had done that. But here was the deal. One, I had a job as a sportscaster that I really liked. And two, we all probably would have gotten fired in 2 or 3 years, and that would have been the end of me anyway.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I was going to say, Kevin, I think you made a wise choice in the sports media world, so that's a good thing.
Well,
John, as a coach, John, talk about the longevity of coaches. You know, that there's no way that I would be a coach or an athletic director today in sports, because the demands are just incredible on you.
well, I can only really speak of it from the high school level because that's what I did for 42 years. But then, the pressure is unbelievable because now, it's not only the normal, pressures that you would put on yourself to win, be a good coach, create good character, but you got all the outside influences now. Like, Kevin said, AAU, that completely changed high school basketball. High school basketball is secondary to AAU now. Kids are being recruited more for their AAU than they are for what they do in high school. High school is just something to do till you get to the spring and start
Yeah.
playing the real ball. So,
Well, that's
the
even
pressures
trickled
right
down
now are
to
unbelievable.
volleyball is the same way, and so is softball.
Oh yeah,
They don't
team
even
softball
follow
is,
the high school stuff hardly anymore.
team softball, having again growing up and the town Edmond has created a great number of phenomenal athletes and sports championships. But softball again, it's secondary. AAU plays the spring, the summer. The traveling teams, those traveling teams are the only thing that matter. I mean, and I had a former player who had a really good son playing ball out of California. He spent 6 months out of the year, probably at close to $70,000, traveling all over the country.
Yeah, and it's
With
that
his
way in all
son.
sports.
And it's
Volleyball,
ridiculous.
softball.
So, as a high school coach, I'm secondary. I know
Yes.
I'm there just to kind of keep the kid warm until they can get to the teams, to the traveling team. It's dramatic. It's so changed. Longevity. As long as you can keep the parents and the AAU, the traveling team coaches happy, you're going to be there. A good friend of mine just finishing up his 25th year at Edmond in basketball, and that's phenomenal in this day and age.
kidding.
First of all, mentally it's hard to do, but I don't know. It's just changed so much that it's almost not fun anymore.
Well, I'll give
that's
you
what
two examples here. Has anybody in this group ever heard of Gerald Wallace?
No.
Played in the
Name
NBA about
something.
12 years.
Yeah.
Went to Alabama.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
The late 90s. Have you heard of him, Bo? You may have heard of him.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I remember seeing him play. Yeah.
But Gerald Wallace in the late 90s was playing for a small school, and I mean a 1A school, right near Montgomery, Alabama, where I was working. And, of course, Gerald Wallace was being recruited by all the big timers. And I went over there and interviewed him and his coach. And I said to him, boy, it must be really exciting to have people like John Thompson and Rick Pitino and Dean Smith coming in here to recruit him. That must be a lot of fun. And his coach said to me, listen, I've never seen or heard from any of those guys. They all go through the AAU coaches. And,
That's right.
all his recruiting has been handled with AAU coaches. I don't do any of it.
Wow.
Well, to now it's even worse than that, because these guys are able to sign agents, and the agents negotiate
Well, that's
with
where
the
I was going to
schools.
go, John. I was going to talk about NIL, and amazingly, and Kevin and Bo and John, you might have heard about this. NIL now is affecting high school athletes. In most states. Now in Texas, I don't think it's legal yet, but I believe it's legal in Florida and California and some of these
18
other
states at least.
Yeah, some of these states are allowing high school players to have agents, sign contracts, and get all this. We have players that are foregoing their senior season, or some of them even their junior season, because they're holding out to make sure they don't get injured. And I don't know, where does it end? Where's the end, Kevin?
Well, one of my students at South Garland High School, and I can't remember his name, this is 15 years ago. I'll think of it in a second here. He signed with OU, and he was the first one to do this. His last year at OU, he played in 2 games, and then he quit to get ready for the NFL.
That's right.
What do you say? He played 2 games his senior year, and then he spent the rest of the time training to get ready for the NFL. And I think he lasted like 2-3 years in the NFL. But the point is, it's a whole different ball game, Frank. And, everybody knows it. And, I frankly think it's to the point of being ridiculous. Now, another thing, too, I was talking with Eddie Cunningham last week, and I said to him, boy, it must be tough on these coaches, because they really can't even coach a kid until he becomes a senior. And Eddie said, actually, it's the exact opposite of that. He said a lot of these players are making big money. They know they don't get that kind of money anywhere else. So the coach can be as harsh as he wants to them. And where are they going to go and get the same kind of money they're getting? So, like Coach Sarkisian told him, the players that we want here, we're going to keep. And we're going to make sure we pay them what they want and keep them here. So, from that standpoint, it's a little bit of the polar opposite of what I expected. I thought, you look at a kid crosswise and he's in the portal. But, he doesn't need to be going to that portal until he's got a position that pays him equal or better. And in a lot of cases, that's really not out there.
Yeah, it's not, except for those super duper athletes. Those are going to be the ones that it might. But Bo, to that point, and to my question earlier, where does it end? I mean, now it's trickling down into high school. Are we going to see it trickle down to junior high? I mean, I know that sounds kind of funny to us.
No, the basketball coaches regularly recruit junior high.
They'll
looking at junior high school players.
Yeah, you're right. I'll say this. I've got to run, but no, you had Bob Knight recruiting 8th graders and having, verbal trans thing. And once that happens, I mean, really, the NCAA is not, and John and Kevin pointed this, the NCAA is not enforcing rules right now. It's just pretty much, it is the wild, wild west. The College Sports Commission is supposed to be doing some stuff, and they're running way behind. So it's just been a total.
Bo, how do you see this ending? I mean, I know that's a pet peeve of John, Coach K. Where do you see it ending? Are they ever going to get together and like form a commissioner of football or anything like that? You know, they've talked about the Saban possibly.
Yeah. That's the only thing they can do. Yeah, they're. I mean, it's right now.
Well,
it's open game. Anybody can take anything. And don't tell. Tom alluded to this. There's money coming under the table like crazy. That's not even that. You know, and the IRS is being sent contracts from the NIL stuff. So you had a revolt last year at Florida State where 6 guys couldn't pay their taxes, and they went back to the blame the basketball coach, said he didn't pay them enough. So they sued the university.
Along these same lines, we had this kind of earth-shaking court case that happened with the basketball player for Alabama that had actually signed an NBA contract, played in the G League, and he played in several games for Alabama. And now the court has come down and said can't do that.
No.
Well, how can they do that when they allowed that player to go to Baylor?
That's what they were saying.
I don't know. That's kind of where my question goes. Any of you guys?
Well, I saw this occurring in the football area years ago because J.K. Dobbins was a high school player that I was familiar with at LaGrange in Texas, and the players, after they completed their senior season, some of them even dropping out midway through the season. Would transfer, would go ahead and enroll in a college, and they'll be ready for spring training in what's basically their senior year of high school.
The whole thing is screwed up.
Yeah,
it's a far cry from Eric Dickerson's Trans Am, isn't it, Bo?
It is. Bo, thanks a lot for joining us.
Thank you, Bo.
We'll see you next week. Thank you.
Good to see you, Bo.
Bo, always good to see you.
Okay, and we're going to do a feature every week on this group called Scattershooting. You know, the old Blackie Sherrod term that Kirk Bowles has stolen.
Scattershooting while wondering what happened to Pete Gent when he retired.
Yeah, well, that's what we want to do. And what we'll do in Scattershooting is you just talk about something briefly that struck your eye during the week or whatever. So I'll just sort of start out. All right, let's switch to our feature, Scattershooting. It's where we just sort of consciously project what has been going through our minds this week. You know, you guys were talking about Rex Ryan. I saw where his son now has been named the passing coordinator for the New York Jets, Kevin. And that lineage from Buddy Ryan to the twins to now his son, it's a pretty amazing run in the NFL. And I will say that, tell me, guys, where Rex Ryan was coaching in 1989.
Was he with the Jets?
Aha! He was coaching at New Mexico Highlands.
Oh my goodness!
I know, wow. and which we've got a thread in common. Another couple of things that I wanted to mention is that I don't know if you guys saw this, but Sonny Jurgensen passed away last week. To me, Sonny was one of the sweetest passers ever in the NFL history, and coming out of an Oiler game, I was going down in the press box elevator, and Sonny Jurgensen and Lindsey Nelson get in the elevator with me. And two guys who were great NFL commentators. And, of course, Lindsey Nelson is a legend that I'll talk about later. But that was a thrill. And what they were talking about was how they spent a lot of time in Houston because Houston was the stop on the red eye special coming back from L.A. to the East Coast. And so they'd always fly into Houston and spend a lot of time in the airport before they flew out to the East Coast. And last, I would just like to say something about Chris Gilbert, the passing of the former All-American running back at the University of Texas. when I was in junior high school, the high school that I was going to was two-time city champions in football. And back then, Spring Branch High School was the school that we played in the regionals. And Chris Gilbert and Bill Wyman, I don't know if you remember Bill Wyman, All-American center for the University of Texas, were on the Bears teams. And it was just, that's something that I'll always remember. And that's sort of like some of my youth passing. It was touched by, the passing of Chris Gilbert. And I just wanted to say, go Horns for Chris Gilbert. And I know that you're up there with a lot of great Longhorn legends. Guys, what are you scatter shooting about, Kevin?
Well, you mentioned Spring Branch. Did you ever read the book Semi-Tough?
Oh, yeah.
Both Billy Clyde Puckett and Shake Tiller both went to Spring Branch.
Spring Branch.
Come to think of it, they lost to Spring Branch.
Well, everybody did back then.
They were talking about how their high school careers went, and they said they could have been dominant in high school, but they never could beat rotten, stinking Spring Branch.
Same for my high school. Coach K?
Hey, the thing that's really got me going is, looking at the Super Bowl, going back to that a little bit, I was blown away by the fact that some of the players basically, when you look at it, the bottom line, they had to pay to play in California. The jock tax in California is phenomenal. They get charged for every day they're there, a percentage of their salary. It cost Darnold $250,000 in income tax to play that game.
Wow. And they're not the only state that does that.
There are 12 states that do it. I did some research looking around, and everybody, wants their pound of flesh. But that just that amazed me. And when you said they're going to play, they're playing at SoFi next year, the same thing's going to happen to them again. If I were a pro athlete, we're getting ready to go to the Pebble Beach, and what's going to be going out there, they're going to be taxed and hit just as hard as those pro football players. I mean, so I was completely flabbergasted when I started reading about how much they were going to have to pay to play. I mean, most of them, Darnold's going to, he's going to come out, right? He's got a $10 million contract.
I don't think we need a GoFundMe for him or anything. But.
No, I don't think so. But, the fact, you look at some of the lower played players, they made, I think, what was it, like 170 something thousand. They're going to break even. But you don't play the game for some people don't. Some do.
Well, think about it, Coach. It's not just the football players. I can tell you that this was happening a long time ago in the corporate arena. I know that, Brenda, my wife, worked for a top 3 energy company. And if they had corporate meetings in California or New York or where some of these other states, they would have to pay income tax for the number of days that they, quote, worked out there.
Crazy.
That's, and that's something I remember because my wife used to travel all over the country doing workshops and seminars.
Yeah, it's crazy.
There are states that, like all of a sudden she'd get a tax bill from someplace.
I do that here at my house. Anybody that comes to work here at my house,
I
get a percentage of their take. Tom, how about you? What's your scatter shooting
I'm
about?
on a scatter shoot. I'm on a shift to Major League Baseball and talk about Justin Verlander signing with the Detroit Tigers. I don't know why, but that Toby Keith song, I ain't as good as I once was, but I'm as good as once as I ever was, kind of comes to mind. I kind of feel like he's going to go out there and
you said it correctly. I'm glad you got through that. You didn't pull a George W. Bush on us.
I think he's gonna have 1 or 2 really good games, and then he's gonna flame out, and I think he's gonna retire a Detroit Tiger. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think he went back to cement his legacy. I think he'll probably retire and become a member of the Hall of Fame, probably on the first ballot as a Detroit Tiger.
What do you think, Kev?
Along the same lines, Detroit Tiger till, kind of like Sooner born, Sooner bred, one I die, I'm a Sooner dead.
Although he won 2 World Series right here, buddy.
He did,
Yeah.
and I have to say, you guys see my seats that I'm sitting in. These are front row seats from old Tiger Stadium. So,
Really?
yes.
I've got Astrodome seats up in
These
my,
are, my dad grew up in
sports room.
Detroit, and every summer I would go up there when I was a kid and watch the Tigers play. And when they were tearing the stadium down, I made a bid on some front row seats, so I got some front row seats from Tiger Stadium. The last thing that I want to scatter shoot is just giving a shout out to my alma mater, Texas Tech. John, your alma mater. We're really proud of the young ladies on the softball diamond, as they are proving, at least to this point, early in the season, why they have that #1 ranking, as they went 6-0 this last week, including a 3-2 win over the Aggies right here in College Station, where I live. So that's how I'm going to end it up.
The top 2 teams that ended last year were predicted to be in the softball World Series again, Texas and Texas Tech. So far, Tech hasn't stumbled, and Texas was beat.
They were beat by, was it Nebraska?
Nebraska
this week. So
but when you're going to go against Jordy Ball, she's one of the premier. I mean, she and Canada are 2 of the premier softball pitchers in the country this year. So
I predict that
not
nobody's going to
surprising.
go undefeated. Nobody's going to go undefeated.
No, because the fact that they're, again, you're just saying the quality of play right now has just elevated itself. Women's softball isn't like your mother's softball. It's not even close.
No.
All right.
And that's the amazing thing. You look at it. I was looking at OU women's softball. They're one of the major revenue producing sports at OU. They fill that new stadium every single game. Almost $2 million in their annual plus side. So Patty Grasso does a good job there.
Absolutely.
All right, that'll wrap it up. Kevin Long, Tom Russo, John Coach K. Kearns, we appreciate you joining us, as well as Bo Carter, and, of course, Mark Johnson, live from Pebble Beach. Thanks for joining us, everybody, and be sure to tune back right here next week for the next edition of SportsUSA.com.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Good night, Bo.